Hi, I'm Bob Ethington.
And I'm Nick Nicholas.
And this is From Akron and Beyond. Hi there, folks. Bob here with Nick. And we have a guest who I think is going to be a fascinating interview and with a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. That's Mr. Tim Franklin. Hi, Tim.
Hello there.
Hey,
How are
buddy.
you?
Very good, and it's great to have you here.
And thank you for inviting me.
You bet. So anyway, I thought we'd start off with really Nick. Nick was the guy who had the idea for this particular episode. So Nick, take it away. How did you come up with the idea to bring Tim on?
Well, my wife Jennifer and I, we watch a few of the, we might say, home remodeling shows, but ones that have like a bit of a historical tint to them, you know. Mm-hmm. And one of our favorites is a show called Restoration Road with Clint Harp. It's on the Magnolia Network.
Okay.
So, we recorded it to watch later, and when I turned it on, lo and behold, it featured Akron. It came out of nowhere.
So you had no idea it could have been anywhere.
I mean, we locally here, we all this hype for, over a year about Antiques Roadshow being at Stan Hewitt.
Yeah, right.
And then nothing about this. Anyway, we watched it. We were fascinated. There was the host of the show, Clint Harp. We think he's really real amazing, the different projects that he does. But the guy that who's doing the restoration here in Akron, his name was Tim Franklin. And I thought, man, I'd love to have this guy on the show. Here's a show that features Akron in this great light, mm-hmm. And that's how we're here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues here. First of all, the work that Tim does, and also why it wasn't easy for us to even know about this.
Yeah, it's a secret.
Yeah, but those are issues that we can get to in a minute. So, Tim, are you from Akron originally?
Yes.
You were?
Born
okay.
and raised.
Okay.
Then I lived in Manhattan a long time. Came back here.
Big Apple.
Yeah. The Big Apple. Yeah, it was the Big Apple.
And my first awareness of you was from many years ago.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah.
Which was, the band I was in, Unit 5, played at a sort of a private party that you guys had, right?
It was a barn party,
yeah.
And through a friend of mine, they knew you, and
mm-hmm.
we wanted to have live music, so you were at our first barn party, and you were the first band that played there, so that we have a distinction for that.
Yeah,
were they ever asked back?
No.
Well, I think Bob will answer this better. This is when I think they were just starting out, and then they quickly started gaining, local attention, and I think at that point, the barn parties weren't good enough anymore, so we had other,
Yeah,
you outgrew us, so that's cool.
Yeah,
it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, we won't go too far down this particular road, but basically, yeah, we were kind of happy to play anywhere, and so we were happy to be asked. So it was, and those kind of shows were always fun, though. They were always kind of unpredictable. You didn't know how you were going to go over, But I remember playing a wedding one time. And, of course, as you can well imagine, anyone who was under a certain age thought it was great, and everyone that was over a certain age thought it was a nightmare.
Well, you were really well received because it was just a lot of fun, a lot of dancing.
Yes.
Right.
A lot of beer, a lot of, and it's in a real old barn, and it was just a wonderful atmosphere.
Right.
You guys really helped make it really cool.
Well, cool.
I remember the Bizarros played the Akron Postal Employees Picnic in the early days,
Okay.
that was interesting. Just 90 people just looking at you.
So, Tim, you mentioned that you lived in Manhattan. What brought you there? What took you to New York?
In my previous life, long story short, I took design and marketing in school,
mm-hmm.
and my family history on my mom's side, they're all architects and builders. Dad's side, a doctor. Didn't get the science genes, got the creative genes.
Yeah.
And So when I was getting out of school, there was just nothing. We were in the Rust Belt. It was, a low point. A friend of mine said, hey, why don't, there was a job in advertising in Cleveland. I went, I excelled. 3 ad agencies later, then I said, I'll go to Manhattan. I was an executive director for 2 of the largest ad agencies in the world. Wow. And worked in the Chrysler Building, one Dag Hammarskjöld. We were at the golden era of advertising, an unlimited expense account, cars. It was something that's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. But I had to make a decision.
The Mad Men days.
Yeah, it was
after.
But but the point was, some gentlemen from England were trying to buy up all the agencies, and I had to make a decision: either am I going to stay or not? Mm-hmm. And then I love Akron, and I'm sure we'll get more into it. And I wanted to come back, and I thought, well, I want to get into architecture and construction. Yeah. And so I came back, but I also love music, and I had this idea about this little store called Manhattan Music. So that's what brought me back.
Yeah. Speaking of bringing things back, it was funny because when Nick first mentioned to me about your store, I was having a hard time picturing it. And I was like, boy, it sounds familiar. I worked in record stores for years, too. And so I was kind of like, Montrose, okay. And anyway, so right before we came on air here for this episode, it turns out that your business was a big underwriter of WAPS early on.
Yes, we were.
And the guys here at WAPS or here at the Summit, they pulled out your T-shirt, and I'm like, I've got one of those shirts.
There you go, see? Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the memory completely flooded back. But yeah, your love of music. Tell us, well, a couple things. First of all, what kind of music did you love then, and do you love now? Who are some of your favorite bands?
I love all different types of music, which has kind of led to why we did the store. So we carried things that the Camelot's records and some of the other places around didn't. A very eclectic taste.
Yeah.
And so we thought, why don't we have a store? And just to clarify, we said Montrose. It was West Akron, but it's a Montrose shopping area. So Manhattan Music, Montrose, it kind of rolled off your tongue. Right. Nice and easy, and did that. So, I grew up with my first concert was Vanilla Fudge.
Okay.
Yeah. Followed up by Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
All right.
And then
was that the show in Cleveland?
Yes, it was.
I was there.
Were you there? There you go. So really cool. And then it turned out as living in the west side of Akron, Blossom Music Center was very convenient, and that's where we went all the time because you were really not 21, and even then, so if I'm not mistaken, it was like $2 for a 6-pack of 3-2 beer and $3 for a ticket, and whoever came up with that 3-2 beer idea was pretty much of a moron because we did the math on the all I had to do was drink 2 more beers, and you were drinking a regular 6-pack. But we would go out to Blossom, and we saw every show. I mean, from James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, you name it, anybody that was out there. So music was a big part of my life, and really enjoyed it. Yeah. In fact, I've got to digress for a sec. So I have an old Nakamichi cassette deck, and I brought it out, and I wanted to get it fixed, and I did get it fixed. And a good friend of mine, we used to bootleg concerts out there because Blossom now is really strict and tight and
different.
Very different. Mm-hmm. So we would go in with this professional Sony cassette recorder. My friend would be controlling it. We made this arm with these two, and like antenna, these 2 microphones would come up over whoever was sitting in front of me, and then we would bootleg the show. So I said to him, I'd love to get those masters, and he hadn't looked at them for years. We have like 50 shows we bootleg. You name it, we got it. And so we wanted
not listening.
So we want to. So I want to get some copies and play them and stuff. So we were just at Blossom.
Yeah.
We'd be there 2 or 3 times a week because it was cheap.
Yeah,
and it was easy.
Yeah,
and so
which is exactly what going to a concert is not now.
Exactly.
Neither cheap nor easy.
Very much so. Very much so. And you ask about music. I love, I was very big into the alternative sound. You have your Depeche Mode, Erasure, that whole thing. I like big band. I think, honestly, The only thing I don't like is country twang.
Okay, yeah.
No offense to anyone out there likes country twang.
Well, taste is taste.
You know, right? And but other than that, so I love all types of music.
I remember we were talking on the phone. We were talking about your record store a little bit, and you mentioned how you had a huge collection of or selection of imports and bootlegs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to give credit to Bill Estrak, better known as B.E. Man from WAPS, because he was my manager. And he was, we're trying to carve out the niche in the store. And he goes, hey, I think I've got this line on these imports. And my God, I'm not going to say where or how we got them, okay? But I'm going to say that they were coming right off the mixing board and the line boards. I mean, we had such a connection. We were getting almost any group that you wanted when they were traveling in Europe, and they were professionally done. They sound fantastic.
Yeah.
So that was really a big niche for us to carry something that no one else normally does.
Yeah.
And we never got caught, and no one ever ratted us out. So it was really fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Do you remember the first album you ever bought? I'm just curious. It's a question I ask people.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Paul Revere and the Raiders.
Oh, that's a good one.
And then I think
good.
followed up with the Monkees.
Uh-huh.
And then I had Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
All right.
So, let's go way back then with the radio. There sure wasn't a lot out there.
Yeah.
And the alternative, the FM stations, I should say, started playing different music. That's what WMMS and stations like that. That's where really were, where the cool days when they'd play, both sides of the album and
right,
like that.
Right.
So, no, Paul Revere and the Raiders. I know it. I know absolutely which one it was.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, sort of really basically a garage band, but that had enough sponsorship that they dressed up in the funny outfits and stuff. But they were a great band.
They had that TV show they were on.
Yeah.
Of course,
where the action is.
Yep.
Yeah, where the action is, and then Donovan. Remember We're Low Like Heaven? All that came out, and so, oh my gosh. All that genre.
Yeah.
I had them all.
Yeah. It's funny, you're just as a quick aside, you're talking about your eclectic taste in music. And I think that if people who work in record stores, particularly cool record stores where you have more access to be able to order the kind of stuff you want, that can be a really deadly thing because my taste in music is like I like everything. I mean, I have very defined taste. But I love classical music. I love jazz. I do love old country music, older rock music, new rock music. New and all. I mean, but the thing is that it becomes compulsive. So you collect this stuff, and it's like. I could practically open a record store with my CD collection, and there'd be like, this is my classical selection. Here's your jazz,
I think I have like 3,000 CDs.
Yeah,
I still have them.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I still, it was just. And part of the thing with Manhattan Music was we were very responsive. If we didn't have it, we'd get it in a couple days.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. So people didn't care. They'd come in and go, "You don't have it? No problem. Just order it for us."
Right.
But then, and we'd have it, but we. And to your point, you get so exposed to so many different genres of music. Hey, I like that. I'm going to get one copy for myself, and another, and then it gets to be a kind of a problem.
Good problem. We need a lot more space somewhere.
Yeah.
There's actually some guy that we see from time to time at Time Traveler Records, local store here. He has over 40,000 CDs.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think he's certifiably insane, though. That's another story. But anyway, so this is From Akron and Beyond. I'm Bob Ethington with my co-host Nick Nicholas, and our guest today is Tim Franklin. Now, we've been talking about kind of his youthful background and then his move to New York and his return to start a really cool record store in the Akron area called Manhattan Music. But the main reason we have Tim on is for the work that he's doing now, which is, as I understand it, doing restoration of older buildings, historic buildings, maybe just buildings that need some rehab.
Helping preserve the history.
Yeah. So without just as much detail as you care to go into, but kind of a switch for you from advertising that you were doing in New York to... and then a record store, and then moving into home remodeling or however you wanted to describe
Well,
it.
with the record store, what happened was so we wanted to expand and open up several, and because we had quite a niche going.
Yeah.
However, that little thing called file sharing started coming up, and we had a 5-year lease. We tried to do a 2-year with a 3-year rollover. They wouldn't do it, and I started looking down the road. I'm thinking, this file sharing and these MP3s and this technology, there's really something to it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we made the decision of not re-signing, and we had to pull the plug. And in hindsight, it was the right thing to do, but it was a sad thing to do. And then at that point, so I decided to take my schooling and put it into practice. And so we started a design build business, a little different, where we do the architecture and we do the construction.
Okay.
So it's kind of one-stop shopping. We can oversee the project. We manage it better. It's our team. And it's funny, my youngest, he had some friends visiting last year, and they go, wow, your dad's really cool. He's on TV and he's got this and got that and all that stuff. And I said, guys, thank you for the compliment. But I said, I just want to tell you something. It took me 28 years to be an overnight sensation. So in other words, it what I have now is not what I started with. And also we've built a fantastic team. So back to the beginning. So we were doing remodels and new construction, and then we gravitated more towards high-end work, and I love historical homes and buildings, and it became a natural thing, so we started doing more and more. And a lot of our work consists of, let's say, an older home, and then when we put a big addition on, by the end of it, you don't know the addition. You think it was always there.
Yeah.
And then we started getting into buildings, and that was the deal with that. Then what happened was I took the oldest barn in Bath, built in 1810, and made it my home and office. That really got things started. So when we would show potential clients the barn, they don't want a barn, but if we can do this, gosh knows we can do what you want. And that's how things really started. That's how it really started progressing. So we started going through the years, and we built our McMansions. We built our houses that were as wide as a football field and all that fun stuff.
Right.
And then, but now we're really zeroing in on, we call it more like forever homes. Someone that's going to, they love their neighborhood or they love their building, and they want to put the money in and really stay there long term.
Yeah.
So, what happened was with our first one was a barn. We were on House TV, and that went really well. And then from there,
how did these connections happen for you?
We were at the time with winning awards, national awards, and so the production houses are always looking for new sources for projects, and that's how they found us for the first one. And it was
they came to you then,
right? Okay. They came to me, and it's kind of funny. So we had the house. This was probably about 6 years ago, and my son goes, "Well, Dad, you've been on about 2 weeks." And I said, "Well, how many views do we have?" He goes, "You have 45,000." I'm like, "Wow, that is really cool." Yeah. Well, about 2 weeks later, he goes, "Dad, you have about 300,000." So we actually have, I think we're pushing about 3 million internationally on there. Well, that grows, and then a couple years later, we did another barn conversion in Medina, and so that got caught on with Chip and Joanna Gaines from from HGTV fame. Well, they branched off with the Magnolia channel, so that's more the higher end renovation restoration versus HGTV. And then I received a call from an executive producer, and they saw it, and they said, "What about doing a show for there?" So they had a new series coming out called Where We Call Home, and they showcase homes. So it was pretty cool. They came out, and we filmed, and then I think we were slated to be number 7 or 8 down the line, and then one day they called and they go, "No, you're going to lead off the show." So you can see it. You just go on Where We Call Home on Magnolia Channel. You can call it up. It's the premiere show, which is cool. Yeah. So then, fast forward, here we come 2 years ago, and a different production company called because they knew who we were and said, "Hey, do you have anything coming up?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I think we do." And this was the home in downtown Akron. And so how it works is the production company first you have to sell it to the production company, and then you have to sell it to the network because they buy episodes. That's how it works. Okay. Yeah. So And, to your point, Nick, Akron, Ohio, what about Akron, Ohio? Well, the truth is Akron, Ohio, like Cleveland and Youngstown and Pittsburgh, were the mecca of the world, the industrial age and all that, and we have such beautiful old homes here. So we came up with the idea to the production company and said, look, I'm sure you don't know about Akron, but if you look at the rich history, we're trying to add another crown jewel to it.
Yeah.
So they liked the idea. In fact, it was funny. I remember I was talking to the executive producer. She goes, well, we like it, but we have to talk to Joanna Gaines and see. So she goes, can I put you on hold for a minute? So she calls her up, gets back online. She goes, okay, Joanna likes that idea. Okay, you can pitch it to us. And I go, oh, that's cool. Yeah. So we pitched it to the network, but the goal was you've got to look at Akron. And I said to the production company and the network, just come out and see. Or we'll send you pictures. And I did send some pictures of some homes. Well, they were out filming another episode. And so they had a crew come into Akron, which I did not know. Oh. And they scout around and go, oh my God, we can't believe what's here. Yeah. And I said, now you understand what we're trying to do. Right. And that's what sold it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So doing the home and which was a mansion down on Mansion Row, if you want to call it, in downtown Akron, across from the Hauer House. Yeah. And so they filmed for a year, and then they also, the goal was to get to Akron, and not just this project. And when they're filming and getting all done, we don't know anything of how it's going to be edited. We don't know anything at all. But when we saw it come out, it was cool because it really featured the beauty of the homes in Akron, and this is just one more. Yeah. So I always wanted to showcase Akron because there's a lot here.
Sure.
People don't realize it. They don't realize what a jewel of a little city that we have.
You've done more to expose Akron than anybody has in the last probably 20 years, man.
Well, a lot of people in Akron don't know that, though.
That's what I mean.
We're more.
It's a well-kept secret.
It's kind of funny. We are internationally known for like this episode and the other work we've done, but we don't get a lot of Akron coverage.
How do our guests or listeners find this now, since it's been out for maybe 5 weeks now?
I can tell you right now. You want to go to it's on the Magnolia Channel, which is on Discovery Plus. It's also on Amazon. There's quite a few. Just look up Restoration Road with Clint Harp. And the title's about an Akron mansion. It's really easy to find. It came out about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, if you look it up online, you can usually find where the show is streaming. I ended up watching this episode. First of all, we saw that series is on HBO Max,
right?
But the Akron episode wasn't posted yet for whatever reason, but it was available on YouTube. I think you had to pay $1 or $2 to see it that way, which I did to do my homework, my due diligence.
All right,
but yeah, I'm sure it'll be even more widely available very soon.
It will be. Yeah. So we're very proud of it.
Yeah,
so I've got to say one thing though. The one thing that in talking with the executive producers when they were editing this and putting this all together, and I said, and even there was the final day of filming and with Clint Harp, and he goes, Tim, you did a great job. I go, look, I said, Clint, it's the team. There's 28 of us. And and I said, honestly, Chris Jonka, who does our construction management, he's a wizard. Without him, without all these guys, because I really believe they are craftsmen. They're not just carpenters. Right. And we've worked together for a very long time. We're all older. We're all more experienced. And I said, I hope that you can edit that. They don't. It's Tim and his team. It drove me absolutely nuts. Because it's not fair because, I was a part of it. But let me tell you, if all the other guys didn't do it, we wouldn't be where we are. So that is the only gripe. Other than that, they showcased Akron. They showcased the home. That was all cool. But we very much believe in a team effort.
Sure. I was going to ask you, particularly the guy that was outside with you that was working on the siding. That guy seemed like a real master. The guy that
everyone is a true craftsman.
The stained glass guy.
Yeah, that's Chris who is our construction manager and he runs the projects. And but what we do is we're a one-stop shop where when we go to a client, you need stained glass repair, we do it. We have anything. You name it, we do it. And we make it very easy for the clients because these clients are typically older, they're more successful, or a business and they want to keep things moving and they don't want to have to be making phone calls. It's real simple. My cell number, Chris's cell number, we answer any, we're texting at 10 o'clock with a client. Some doctors get up at 5 before they have surgery. Yeah. I mean, you name it, we do give a lot of customer service with that. So
with the work that you guys do, it seems like a lot of it requires you to be sort of historians in a way, and to be able to conjure up the past and be able to come up with design, come up with the exact materials that are going to fit in an appropriate way that they theoretically 150 years ago or whatever, that would have been exactly how it would look. That's something that impressed me about that show. I'm curious about how much research you guys do.
There's a tremendous amount of research.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And Lisa, she's our research queen, as we call her. Okay. And so between that and all of our experience, we put it all together. And so we research very closely what species of wood and how is it milled and to do all that because in the show, in the master suite, there's a closet in the dressing room which never actually was there, but we replicated it so well that some of the homeowners' relatives thought that, oh, there's the closet. Like, no, that closet was never there.
Oh, wow.
So it took a tremendous amount of effort for all of us to make it really work. So it's a lot of us involved to make that work. So
yeah, because I can see where there's one of the things that comes through on that show, and anyone that's looked at historic homes or buildings in Akron, you can't help it or fail to be impressed by the intricacy a lot of times of the woodwork and the trims and things, the design there. And if you have a pattern already set up, that would kind of give you a clue on what you need to follow. But sometimes you don't, right?
Right, yeah. Right. In fact, on the show, the wood shutters were terrible. I think Mike must have spent 6 weeks just every day. Every bit of it was sanded down and then recoated. I mean, we just spent a tremendous amount of time. The stairs, the railing, the newel post, all that detail. You've got to dig out the dirt. I mean, it's like forensic work sometimes. It really, really is. You have to do the research. You have to see how it's going to be. Then the other part is there's not a handbook on how to do all this. So we collectively team up and go, okay, how do we think we're going to approach it? And there's always something new on every project. There's always a surprise. Even for us, for all the years we've been doing, you just guarantee there's going to be something. Usually it's structural, something that's been butchered years ago, something like that. So
additions,
bad workmanship. So we kind of write our own. We write our own handbook.
Yeah,
is what we do.
I never even heard of Butterwood. What was it? Until that show. I mean, was that something? Butternut.
Butternut.
I mean, I never heard of that before.
Yeah,
but that was used in this part of the country quite a bit, or?
No, it was actually when it was designed. The architect back then wanted to do something unique. The homeowner was a millionaire, very successful, so they wanted to bring some different characters. So we had to find butternut, and we had to work it and do it. And you just don't buy that down at the local lumber yard. So we have a lot of items that are especially. We have to find them and have them sent in and have them milled, and they do it at our cabinet shop.
Yeah.
So Rob and the guys do a great job, and they we have to create the profile so it looks exactly the same. There's a lot to this. Our projects, 2 or 3 years is pretty common.
Sure.
A fast project for us is 3 or 4 months.
Really?
That's fast, really fast. That's like a kitchen.
Yeah.
A high-end kitchen, something like that, or. So
yeah. I'm fascinated and impressed by the combination of the actual technical aspects of what you do, but with the creative aspect in a sense, really,
absolutely.
Or in recreative aspect. But you have to be able to use a combination of research and imagination, I would think.
And I'll tell you something else, Bob. The other part is for example, with this home, if you notice the bathroom upstairs, the original was very small. Well, there was a closet next door. So we go, hey, let's capture the closet. The closet became a shower. We start getting the ideas flowing.
Yeah.
We start getting the renderings going. And then all of a sudden, you have this really nice master bathroom. Mm-hmm. And same with the kitchen. Now, the kitchen was butchered in the 70s. And so we wanted to have the historic feel, but also the client wanted it more modern and functional. That's a really hard thing to balance, to get the two. Mm-hmm. And so it takes a tremendous amount of work to get that figured out, so it doesn't look like, you just put a new kitchen in an old home, or you kept it so historically correct that it doesn't have the amenities that you want now. Yes. And it's a lot harder than you think to do it. So, it takes time.
Yeah. So this is From Akron and Beyond. I am Bob Ethington with Nick Nicholas, and our guest is Tim Franklin. We were talking about, obviously a subtext to our conversation so far has been not only the work that Tim and his company does, but also the fact that this work has been exposed. That's
worldwide.
Promoted on a television show that has been seen worldwide, and yet Nick's original reaction when he saw the program, just thinking it was part of a series of home restoration, was, "Wow, this is a fantastic show all about Akron and historic homes in Akron, and this work that's being done by Tim and his crew." And how did, I'm speaking for you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but it was you. I remember that when you first told me about it, you were like incensed.
Pissed.
Yeah, you were
really
angry.
Pissed because, they always write about the soapbox derby, but, this is going on too,
It's just odd. And it is something that we have noticed in doing our year and a half, pushing 2 years of From Akron and Beyond podcast, talking to a wide variety of people involved in various endeavors and projects here in Akron. How poor of a job we kind of do in promoting our own community, not only outside of our community, but even inside, even within. There's people that live in Akron and have lived here their whole lives that have no idea of a lot of this historic beauty that you're talking about.
I agree. In fact, because of we joke that we're better known around the world, the country and the world, than we are in our own backyard.
Yeah.
Now, I think with media coverage, it'd be nice if some media would pick up on some of the stuff, not just what we do, but what other people do. There's so much good going on around in Akron, and I don't think it gets it. I don't think it gets its due. But because of the when we were on where we call home, so we're getting phone calls around the country. We're doing projects in Denver, Colorado, Madison, Wisconsin, two in Michigan. We're going to Cary, North Carolina. We're going to be Hartville, Ohio. Hopefully, we're gonna have one in Copley. So we're really well known, except here.
Yeah.
But there's no coverage here. There's no TV show, no nothing. And thank you for you guys having us on, because at least we get a little our team gets a little recognition of what we do, and yet. Flip on the TV and we're right there, but you don't hear anything.
No.
And I remember when this came out, and Leanne and her group with the Summit County Preservation Society and Historical Society really tried to get the word out to some of the local media. We had zero response. Like, that's something to talk about.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and granted, in fairness, this is something that comes up a lot on our show when we're talking about music, that, you were talking about file sharing. Well, now that everything's basically on the internet,
right?
The good news is virtually every kind of possible music that you can think of, and everyone that does music or makes music is now accessible to everyone. Right. That's the good news. The bad news is exactly what I just said.
Exactly.
That everything is totally accessible. So there's a glut of it. There's no way to prioritize things. And so I get it in the sense that there is so much content now with streaming television and stuff, constantly all these different shows that, so, I mean, not a week goes by that somebody doesn't come up to me and say, "Oh, have you checked out this new show that's on blah, 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 whatever network it is, Apple or Amazon or whatever." And I'm like, No, I haven't seen that. I haven't heard of it. Oh, it's fantastic, and it probably is. Yeah. Of course, the other part of that, too, with those kind of shows is you got to see it, which is, to me, all I hear is you have to spend 20 hours of your life doing it.
Streaming it to see it. But it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It is. It's a double-edged sword.
So that's I guess that's me being understanding that it's not as easy as maybe we'd wish it was, but at the same time, it's not that hard either. But if you have somebody in Akron as a media presence in Akron who can filter this stuff, and when the stuff is being handed to them, like you said, Leanne from the Historical Society did, how come more people don't know about it?
Yeah, but there's media here, and their job is to cover local news. Mm-hmm. And here it is. 3 weeks later, we're exposing it. The summit.
Well, the summit is, and the summit actually does a good job with this kind of stuff. Yeah, but
anyway, that's enough.
But weren't you saying, or wasn't somebody telling us that Youngstown has 3 television stations?
I think so.
Yeah.
And Akron has none.
Yeah.
Right? That tells you. I mean, I don't get it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's because we're under the umbrella of Cleveland. Yeah, but it doesn't help Akron in that sense, right? Because we get the shift or the short shrift on that. Yeah. It's frustrating. Have you been hiring more people, Tim? I mean, it seems like there's all this work you're doing.
Yeah. Or
you hire people for jobs?
We're no different than any other industry. Trying to find someone who actually wants to work and learn and which we could go on for 2 hours with this discussion, but we luckily have a couple young guys now that are really doing great. We just we overpay them. We give them some of the best training by some of the best guys in the country, and some people that's a whole work ethic issue. So
Nick got excited when you said overpay. He was saying applying.
Well, no, really. I mean, for what we start them out at, but unfortunately. Now, here's a different generation. So what we started out and what they expect to start out is a different story. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people just, they just...
It's a work ethic.
I had this one guy. So Chris and I were interviewing this one guy. I'm not going to mention his name. And he goes, I'd like to work for you. So we were interviewing him. I said, okay, so what do you do? And he goes, okay. He goes, well, I just want to let you know I don't do drywall work. And I said, well, we have a drywall team, but we do a little patchwork to keep them. I don't do that. I go, okay. And he goes, oh, and by the way, I don't like to drive more than 20 minutes away from my house. I'm like, well, excuse me, we're in Cleveland, we're in Canton, we're all over the place.
That's great.
And I just remember looking, I'm trying to keep a straight face going, okay. And I'm like, well, thanks for talking to us, and we'll talk to you later. I'm like, are you serious? I mean, come on, guys. So, but we are always on the lookout for someone who we think will fit the team. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, we have a great group right now, knock on wood, and we're okay. But it's very, very hard, which is why we're older. We all have experience. Mm-hmm. To your point, Bob, there's no playbook. Okay, there's every project is a one-off. It's very different, and if you don't bring experience from many years, you don't really add a whole lot to it.
Sounds like it's almost like an apprentice kind of thing.
Very
for
much
some
so.
People.
Wow. Right.
Wow.
It's very much like an apprentice, and the cool thing is if you learn, you can get 3, 4, 5 years under your belt. I mean. We tell them, if you want to go somewhere else, go ahead. Hopefully you'd like to stay. Yeah. So we're always trying to promote. We can hire more people many as we could get, but it doesn't happen that way.
I find this very exciting. It sounds like a very vibrant business that you have. That for a young person who is good with their hands and doing that kind of work, which I am not.
Me neither.
But unfortunately for me, And then there's the creative aspect to it as well. I think it would be just really something that people should consider going into. Young people should.
Well, then also there's the structural challenge. There's so many elements that go into the work that we do. Yeah. The other cool thing is what we found is, and we're very thankful that a lot of people go, I love my mature neighborhood. I've been here for a long time. I'd like to stay here. We have design deficiencies in our home. We want to address those. Maybe that's an addition redo. It could be all different levels. But it's not just let's go out to a cornfield and spend a lot of money and have no trees and build a brand new stark house. So because you're saving a beautiful home. Yeah. If you in Akron, if you go up and down Merriman Road, you can see Portage Path. A lot of those old homes, those big old homes 20 years ago were not in good shape. Slowly but surely, people are coming in and restoring them. What's that do? It's the beautification of Akron. It's a repurposing. It's bringing a home back to life. Yeah. So it's a lot of cool. That's the kind of stuff that excites us.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure we could have made a lot more money if we started track homes a long time ago. But I think we'd shoot ourselves because, floor plan A, B, or C, what are we building today? Right. That's just, there's no creative juice. And we're a very creative group and we like to solve problems. So, yeah.
Well, Tim, you're mentioning Homes on Portage Path. That reminds me of the highly acclaimed book by David Giffords, an Akron resident and writer. It was called All the Way Home, Building a Family in a Falling Down House, and had a lot of acclaim. And it's very much about him moving into an old dilapidated home and doing all the work to rehab it himself. And very similar little story to what you guys do on a much bigger scale. So you should read that book.
We love what we do. It's very challenging. But it feels very rewarding. When we come to the end of a project, it's like we're turning our baby over. And luckily with our clients, they're very happy, so they call us back and do work down the road. But they are a labor of love, but they are tough. There's no. I will say this: what separates us from a lot of people is that a lot of people don't have the knowledge we have, but they also don't have the patience because it's not wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Right.
Just slapping up anyone. We joke when we do a new home. Oh, it's so easy. It's draw it. It's boom, it goes up. It's real easy. But we're trying to work with an existing home. Yeah. That is, and most people don't have the patience. Right. And most guys just don't have the patience to do it. Yeah. But we love doing it. Yeah. So it's how we're building our business. Yeah. And doing that. So
But sounds. I mean, Tim, you've had a remarkable career so far because you've been involved in various things that you love. Music and and now this kind of work, which is just remarkable.
I tell younger people, and I told our youngest son who's at Kent State, you can try and pick what career path you have, but I guarantee you. It might not end up. It's a curvy path. It's not unless you say, "Hey, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer," and you're going to stick to it for good. Yeah. But I've been very fortunate to work in some very exciting fields and have a lot of fun. I'm very fortunate with the team that Chris and we've put together. I'm serious. I love what I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's frustrating days. We all have them. But
sure.
Overall,
anyone who has their own business is going to have frustrating
exactly.
days.
But on the other hand, it's really rewarding and it's really cool. So we're proud. We're proud of it.
As well, you should be. And hopefully, from listening to this episode, more people will know about you.
Yeah,
about the work you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and appreciate what Akron
has.
It's
easy to find us, I mean, Bob, as you said about finding everything. Yeah. All you have to Google Franklin and Associates, Tim Franklin, Barn Homes. Doesn't make any Restoration Road with Clint Harp. I mean, there's a lot of ways. You start just type in Barn Homes. Well, then you'll find us, and it goes right to our website and stuff like it's easy that way.
Well, thanks for mentioning that because I was going to say how people could contact you, and so there you go, easy enough.
Easy. There's my pitch.
Okay, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, appreciate it, really do. It's I want to say one thing. I'm going to go way back to Manhattan Music. Okay,
sure.
And when Nick contacted me, and then with you, Bob, and I'm thinking, oh my God. look how we're all tied back to WAPS.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Bob, you were the first band to play in our barn parties, okay? And then, of course, we had Manhattan Music, and we were one of the major sponsors in the beginning. And honestly, APS really helped us get our store launched because we separated from the Camelot Musics, rest in peace, and all the other ones that are out there. So so we have this B. Iman, he has his reggae show. I mean, you just it's the 7 degrees of WAPS, not Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
It's just funny how it all worked out this way, and I'm glad you called, Nick, and it's turned out this way.
It was funny when we mentioned to Tommy Bruno and the other long-timers here at the summit. Oh, they all knew who Tim was immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was one of our first supporters, first underwriters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It was very nice. Yeah,
very glad APS is still here and going strong.
You bet.
Stronger
Keep
than
it up.
ever.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks again, Tim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.